welcome to Tuesday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where today normal Sudoku rules do not apply, because we're going to be looking at a puzzle instead. Well, I know Sudoku is a puzzle, but this is a logic puzzle rather than a Sudoku puzzle. And this is called Chaos Fillomino by Mark Sweep, who goes under the name of Frostini over on Discord. A fabulous, fabulous setter. Somebody whose puzzles we should really do a lot more often. But for some reason, they've not made it to the top of the pile until today. So I'm looking forward to trying this one. It's got a very interesting rule set. Don't worry if you're not familiar with Philomino. Philomino has incredibly simple rules. And I'll explain what these digits outside the grid mean in just a second. Few things to mention first. A very exciting bit of news. You'll have seen this if you watched the second video from yesterday. Many apologies. When I released yesterday's video at 8:30 p.m, the rules on the right hand side of the video were from the previous day's puzzle, so that confused some people. So I re-exported it, re-uploaded it to YouTube and released it later on. And in that later video, I was able to make the announcement that tomorrow, 10 a.m. UK time, we're going to be releasing a bonus video on the channel. And the bonus video is by Clover. Clover, of course, well, many of you will know Clover. I mean, she is a wonderful, wonderful constructor. We've featured her many times on Cracking the Cryptic. She's responsible, or one of the people responsible, for the gas puzzles that appear every day on Discord. These are the genuinely approachable Sudokus. And she created the puzzle Everest, which I solved about a week ago. An amazingly difficult as well, and intricate killer Sudoku. And Clover's made a reaction video to my video where she talks a bit about the logic she had in mind when she set the puzzle and how it compared to how I solve it. It's a really, really cool idea. It's just a 17 or 18 minute video, but I promise you, if you watch it, you will enjoy it. So that's coming up 10 a.m. tomorrow. Very exciting. And I think that could be a new sort of season or new series of reaction videos from setters where they sort of explain what Mark and I could have done differently. And what else? Oberdin tonight, 10 p.m. UK time. Do join us if you're able to. We're going to be live streaming our next attempt at getting through the murder mysteries on board that very, very dangerous ship indeed. And other than that, Patreon. We've got more content on Patreon today. Mark has released his latest solve of the Times Club monthly special crossword, which is this vicious cryptic crossword that I know many of you do subscribe to Patreon to watch each month. And we are creeping up unbelievably towards 6,000 patrons. So if we can get there soon, wouldn't that be, well, that would be amazing for a little old channel like us. If you do support us over there, thank you so much. And we do hope you enjoy all of the extra content that we get to put up there. Now, all that said and done, let's get on with Chaos Fillomino, and I'll explain what's happening in the grid. So we've got our job is to divide the grid into regions such that no two regions of the same size touch orthogonally. Each cell contains a digit that indicates the size of the polyomino it is in. So let's stop there, because that's normal Philomino rules, and I found a Philomino example on the internet, and we can look at this and understand Philomino. It's a very, very simple rule set. So you can see there's a grid, it's got some numbers in it, and the finished grid, if you look carefully, this region of size 5 here has a 5 in each of its cells, because there are 5 cells in its region. This is a 4-cell region, a 1-cell region, etc. And if you look carefully, you'll see that none of the 4-cell regions, which are this one, and this one, none of them connect orthogonally. Orthogonally means share a long edge. So none of them they touch diagonally at this little point here, but none of them share an edge. Same with the 3s. The 3s touch at a point, but they don't share an edge. So we've got to divide the grid in that way, subject to that rule. Now, there's a complication with this one, and it's this. Clues outside the grid indicate the distance to the first seen highest digit in the corresponding row or column. So starting from a clue X, the X cell from that direction is the first appearance of the highest value in that row or column. Now there's an example here to make this clear, e.g. the 2 in row 2, that's this 2, means that row 2, column 8, i.e. the second cell from this direction, 1, 2, so this cell contains the highest digit in that row. So let's imagine this square was, I don't know, a 6. That would mean it was the first appearance of the highest sized region in this row. And the example goes on to say, although row 2, column 1 to row 2, column 7 may or may not have the same value. So we could have a 6 over there. In fact, we could, and have a region that does that, for example. That's a 6, that's a region of size 6. And the first appearance of the highest, well, if that was, say, a 3, and that was a 2, now in this direction, the 6 first appeared in this cell, which is why this would be a correct clue. So it's a little bit interesting how this is going to work. Basically, all of these digits outside the grid are flagging the highest regions in their rows and columns and where they first appear in those rows and columns. I've got no idea how we're going to solve this, but we shall have a go at it, and do have a go yourselves. This is one of the wonderful things about this channel, is that you can play the puzzles on whichever device takes your fancy just by clicking the link under the video. With that, I get to play. Let's get cracking. And let's see what Frostini's got in store for us. So the first thing I'm saying, which is totally fatuous, but it gives me something to do, is that each one in the grid is obviously in a region of size 1. So I'm going to make those black because they basically cannot extend anywhere. The 2 is in a region of size 2. I'll make that blue, but we don't know which cell it goes to next. We've got a 9 here. That's weird. Let me just think about this. So that's telling us in this column, this cell, the 9th cell from this direction, is the highest, is the biggest region. It's the first time the biggest region appears in the column. So whatever goes in there, in this cell here, does not go in any of those cells, and in fact all of these cells have to be part of smaller regions than that cell. So that cell is probably a big region, although it's not as big. Look, no, it's not as big as that cell, because from this direction, 1, 2, 3, 4, that has to be bigger than whatever we've put in there. So sorry, I'm just going to think about this. This can't be the 2 then, can it? No, we can't. So we can't make this a 2 and then argue that this is a 1, because one thing you can't do is put a whole string of 1s in a column of a philomeno. So I think these 3 regions here are all different. And this is definitely bigger than this. Yeah, in fact, just thinking about that a bit more, I used the facetious example of 1s going up here. That's clearly not going to work for any number of reasons. Mainly, you can't connect 2 1 regions to each other. So this column up to this point must contain a minimum of some 1s and 2s in it, which means this square is at least equal to 3, and therefore that square is at least equal to 4, because this 4 is telling us that this is bigger than that. That's a little bit interesting, and in fact the 3 here is telling us that, yeah, okay, the 3 here is telling us that the 3rd cell in this column is definitely greater than the 4 here. So that's got to be at least equal to 5. So we're getting a sort of chain of, in fact that chain, oh right, this is it. I think we found a sort of a ladder that's going through the grid. 3, 4, 5, but I think we can carry on with this. This 8 clue is saying in this direction, the 8th cell, so that's that one, is the biggest region. So this cannot be the biggest region. So this square is at least equal to 6. And look now, we've got a 4 here, So we're saying this region is bigger than anything that's come before it in the column, so that's at least equal to 7. This 8 is now telling us that this square, the 8th square from this direction, is beating a 7. I mean, this could be a 10 or something, although that's going to be very annoying in terms of trying to put this into this puzzle. But that square's there has got to be at least equal to 8. Oh, and look, 1, 2, 3, 4. This square has got to be greater than anything in the column so far, so that's got to be greater than that. Oh, and that's interesting. In column 8, we've got a 5 clue and a 3 clue. So don't these two have to be the same? Maybe not the same region, but they have to be the same size, don't they? I think that's true, because if they were of different sizes, let's say that this was a 12 and this was a 10, then this should always be signalling the highest number, and so should this. So these must have the same value, although we don't know if they connect or not. But that's really, I tell you what, if you couldn't have, let me just check the rules again. I don't think it said that the highest digit was a 9. I didn't. No, I was just thinking, if the highest digit in this puzzle was a 9, now we would know this was 3, we would actually know the values of all these. This 4 has to come out, so it must come to that square. So it must come here. This is lovely. This is really lovely. It's not terribly tricky yet, but it's so beautiful. Now look at this 4. Where does it go next? It needs to take another cell, or another 2 cells at least. It can't turn left, because if it turns left and takes this square, this 9 clue's broken. Because then you get into an infinite loop thing. What? Because once this is a 4, this square needs to be greater than 4, it needs to be at least 5, but then from this direction this needs to be greater than 5, and you keep going around in a whirlpool here. That's the sound effect that puzzle whirlpools have. So this 4 has to go there and has to be green. Now the 2, we got our first digit in the grid. Bingo! There we go. That's finished that region. Now the final. Oh, well, I was going to say the final piece. I've got to be careful with this. This could be a lot bigger than 4. All we're saying is that these low digits are the minimum numbers they have to be. It is interesting though. I'm just thinking about this. This column, I think, is incredibly difficult because it sort of provides a wall. Like this clue can never come into this column because we know that this clue here is definitely greater than this clue here because of this. There's sort of a weird inequality thing working its way around the grid. So that. Oh, right. I've got another of these mismatched clues. I've got a 3 clue here and a 2 clue here. So that square has a minimum value of 5. Now, okay, they don't quite connect to each other if they're 5. But if these were both 6s, they could even just form a wall like that up the column. Okay. Right. Hang on. This 4 clue here. How does that work? That's this clue here. Oh no, that's fine. Okay, sorry. No, I was suddenly thinking, how am I going to fill these 2 digits in? But I was thinking that this was the highest number. But it's not. This 4 is signalling this cell. So this cell is the highest number in its row. So that means this can extend as far as it likes this way. Oh, and this indeed must extend to this. Oh yeah, I've got it. Right, okay. See this 9 clue here? Well, that's saying that the first appearance of the highest sized region in this column is actually there. So this cell here can never come to this cell. Oh, my phone was buzzing. Because if it did, this 9 should read 8. So that means this cell, which we know is at least equal to 3, must go there. Right, and this is lovely now, because now this square cannot be a 1. Because if it was a 1, it would be next to another 1 and break the rules of Philomino. So this needs to be part of a bigger region, therefore it connects to its red friends. And we might get to put a 3 in the corner. Maybe. We've got to somehow work out this is only 3 in terms of its size. Now, how can we do that? If it was bigger than 3, it would come up here. That square, okay, I've not looked at this 2 clue. That square there is saying that this, we know in this row there's a region of at least size 4, so this square here is at least a 4. And that doesn't seem to affect the column 8 shenanigans we've got going on. Sorry. Okay, I want to get a 3 in the corner. This is not how you should solve puzzles, by the way, by trying to make songs about them. It is not sensible. Yeah, this... got it. Right. These are going to use up an awful lot of real estate, look, in these 2 columns. Because we know that the shape here is at least 6, the shape here is at least 7, but we can never allow these 2 shapes to enter column 3 of the grid, because then they're going to break the 9 clue. So that's 6. It could take that square, but it's going to have to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, it's going to have to take all of those squares by force, because this 7 is also not allowed to come into the 9 column, because that's going to stop this being the biggest number in its column. So that 7's got to come down there, like this. So we've got 13 minimum in 15 cells. Wow. Wow, that's really annoying as well. Because what that means is it is possible... Oh. No, I was just thinking, if you increase the 3 to a 4, you increase the 4 minimum to a 5, this to a 6, this to a 7, and this to an 8, and then you'd have to put 15 cells into these 2 columns for these shapes, and that you could get 15 like that. But isn't that going to give this clue a problem? Yes, it does. Yeah, here you go. Here we go. Here's a little bit of logic. This is a 2 clue. So that's telling us that the first appearance of the biggest region in this column is here, not here. Well, this cell in row 9, column 1 cannot be a 6. It cannot reach that cell. And it can't be part of the 7, because if that was part of the 7, this would have to be at least an 8, and there would be no room to hide it. You can't fit a region of size 8 into a domino. So, this square is not part of the 6 or the 7, and is different. And if it's different, now I haven't got 15 cells in here. So I cannot increase the 6 to anything larger, because there isn't room for it. And if I can't increase the 6, I can't increase the 5, or the 4, or the 3. And there we go, that's 3 in the corner, because that's forced. That's forced to be a 4, this is forced to be a 5, therefore this is forced to be a 5, this is forced to be a 6. But this could be an 8, perhaps, because I've only lost 1 cell as a result of this logic. So I've still got 14 cells available. Yeah, I have. Okay, sorry. So this square here must be part of the 7, mustn't it? Because it cannot be part of the 6, and it cannot be part of another region that's bigger than 7. So that's part of this region, if indeed this is a 7. It's a 7 or an 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's always taking that square for certain. But we don't know whether it's taking 2 more or 1 more. Bother. So if the 6, if this did use all 14 of the available squares, then the 6 would have to come into this square. Oh, that's going to... Right, let's have a quick look at that, because that's going to up this ante, isn't it? Is that problematic or not? Because I'm thinking, if this goes up to 6, now this, in order to be the highest sized region, has to be at least equal to 6. That's going to push it into this. Ah, and we can create an infinite loop again. Right, this is really clever stuff. Right, look, watch this. This square here is part of the biggest region in this row, because of the 2 clue. Now this is therefore, this cell here is not therefore the same region as this. So let's give these some 2 different colours just to make that very clear. Let's make that red. That red in fact can't be a 1, I've just noticed, because it's next to a 1, so it's got to be at least a 2. That's at least a 2. Okay, but now let's try and make this a 6. If we make this a 6, well, it's simply impossible. Because the moment this 6 here is telling us the 4 is the biggest size region in this row. So if this is a 6, it can't go into row 1. So it has to come in to row 3 at some point with its 6-ness. Now once you get a 6-ness in one of these, this 8 is broken. Because someone going past very fast outside. But if the 6 is here and the 6 is here, this 8 clue should be signalling where the 6 is appearing here, not that one. And if this is greater than 6 and not equal to this, let's say this is 7 or 8, then again it's definitely coming into row 3, and again this 8 should be signalling it. So that's saying that this 6 can never influence this square, and if it can't influence this square, that's not a 6. This is gorgeous, and now this square is... I don't know about that square, but I want to fill the 6 in here. That's got to be the 6. So these are all turning into being 6s. Now there isn't room for this to be an 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is forced. That's got to be a 1 in the corner. And let's come back to this square now. Now this square is not a 1, because then it would connect to another 1. So it's coming out a little bit. But it... Oh, that's in fact, it's a 2, isn't it? Yeah, this is fascinating. And what I hadn't appreciated is when I got my 3 in the corner, I also have quite a profound effect on the possible values of the whole of the rest of column 3. These all have to be 1s and 2s. But this square, which can't be a 1, has to connect to this square. So it must be a 2. That's a 2 region. And therefore this must be a 1 region, because it can't be another 2 region. Ah, this is just superb. That's got to be another 2 region, because it can't be a 1 region and connect to its friends. So I'm adulterating all of the colours here, but never mind that. We're still getting somewhere. Now, is this 2, or is it there for the 2? The 2 has to take 1 more. Not sure if we know which of those... I'm not sure if we do know which way the 2 goes. Never mind. Let's have a think about other things now. So, we can say that... right, hang on. This 4 is the biggest, the first appearance of the biggest region along this row. So these squares cannot be as high as 4 because of the 6 clue. So they are 1s, 2s or 3s. That can't be a 2 because it would connect to another 2. That can't be a 1 because it's part of the red region. So this red region is a 2 or a 3 region. This region... Oh, this region's a bit of a naughty region, to be honest, because I keep thinking it's the same as this region, but it doesn't have to be. It could be enormous. Although, if it was really enormous, that would affect the 5 clue. If this was a 10, for example. Now this square... Oh no, it can't be a 10, because that's going to push it into this row and break the 6. Ah! No, okay, this has to be... It has to be 4 or 5. That's interesting. So it's always coming down into this row. But I don't think it can ever connect to that. So that's quite interesting as well. There's lots of interesting things going on. Now, but what we haven't done... Can we do anything in the bottom bottom right hand corner? This cell here is not a 1. So these two cells are joined to each other. Make them purple. I don't think that's very helpful at all. Oh dear. Okay, so we should have a look instead at 5. The 8, or whatever it is in this cell, can't ever come into this row, can it? Because the moment it does, it breaks the 6 clue. So that 8... Oh, right, okay. Sorry, I should have spotted this instantly. This 8... Don't forget, it's the first appearance from this direction of its size in this row. So this 8 can't go there or there. So this 8 has to turn this way, and it's at least 8 in size. So it's got to come so it's got to actually form that sort of shape. What colour shall I use? I use red. It's got to, because it's at least a size 8, it's got to take this square, and this square. Now, it could take that square, but even if it does, it's still got to grow more. So it's got to take this square and this square, in fact. So this region is now coming out to here. And this region can't go upwards, because then that's going to break this clue. So that region's got to do those 3 things. Now, do we know whether this is the same... We know it's the same size because of the 3 and the 5, but we don't know whether it's the same region. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is possible. Okay. Right, hang on though. Hang on, look. We've got 8s now in all of these squares. So this clue's suddenly become more important, hasn't it? Because this clue is saying that the biggest region in this column, the first appearance of the biggest region, is in the first square. So this must be at least as large as this region. So that's at least an 8. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, and you can't connect this region to this region. So this is a different region to this one. And it comes here. Okay, so this region comes to there, but this region, this 8 region, is not as big as the 9 region because of the 3 clue. Does that tell us anything? I don't think it does. Until we actually know whether this is a 9 or a 20, we don't know yet about... Oh, that's maybe what we've got to do. We've probably got to think about, because I know this region. This region, it doesn't have to be the same size as this region at all, does it? Oh, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, the 3 and the 5 in column 8 don't affect the size of this region. I'm just trying to think about whether this... If this was an 8, could that be a 9 and this be a 10, for example? I think that's possible. It's just this is at least 8. Alright, I've got to keep these minimums in mind. Now, but what I was thinking is that these humongous regions that we've got going on in the bottom right of the grid can never come into this column. This column's max value is the 5s. And this row's maximum value is the 6s. So these 8s, 9s, or whatever they are entirely confined into that section of the grid. And that section of the grid is a rectangle of size 30. And 889 is 25. So there's not that much room to play with, especially as that square is very clearly not an 8 or a 9. So that's 29. Yeah. Yes, here we go. Here we go. This 8 clue is not only telling us that the 8 region starts here, if it's an 8 region, but you know what I mean. It's telling us those 3 squares are not high numbers. They are not 8s and 9s. So that's now got rid of 4 of my rectangle cells. So I'm down to 26. And now, that's it. That's it. The 8 can't be a 9. If the 8's a 9... Oh. Well, this 8 can't be a 9, for sure. I've not got the leeway for that. If this 8 is a 9, then this is at least a 9 as well, and that's at least a 10. And that's too many. That's definitely more than 26. So I've got 1 degree of freedom. So this is 8. This is definitely 8. This one is also now 8, because if this one wasn't 8 and was 9, that again forces this to be 10. So not only can this not be 9, this cannot be 9 either. So that is also 8. And that gives us 16 of the 26 cells. 16 of the 26 cells. So the maximum now size of the 9 region is a 10 region. I don't have a way of showing that, so I'm going to use 0. So this is either a 9 region or a 10 region, and we've got to remember we're trying to fill this space, but this space not with those squares in it. It's this region here. Let's just highlight those in orange. That's the tricky region. We've got, I think, because this square is not in it, I think the remainder of this region is 26 cells, and we've accounted for 25 of it at least, and maybe 26 of it if that's a 10. So these are this region. This can't come upwards, can it? We've got to be a bit careful as well. I mustn't let this 8 at the bottom touch this 8 here because of Philomeno rules. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ah, what is that square? What's that square now? It's not 1. It's not a 1, and we know it can't be. It can't be a 2 because that would remove 2 cells from the region, and I know I need at least 25 of the region. I've only got 26 cells in orange. So this, and it can't be a 9, or it can't be part of this region, or this 3 clue would be wrong. So that's an 8. That's purple. That's putting a bit more pressure on where this can go. This 9. Yeah, oh, the other thing, I suppose, is we've learnt that these connect somehow, don't they? Because I can't have a second... These two can't be in different regions. They are the same region. So this has to connect here somehow. That's forced. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's forced. That's got to go at least 1 more. That's the red 8. This now has to come... All of those squares are now forced. They get greens, don't they? So this is for 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ah, so if it's 9, it can join up. Just. We'd take that square. And that 8 would have to take this square. So... how do we work out whether this is a 9 region or a 10 region? We have got to Oh, hang on, how does that 5 go? Hang on, what's going on with this 5 clue? This square here is definitely lower than the 5 because of the 2 clue, so that's a 1, 2, 3 or 4. But this 5 clue now, if it doesn't impinge upon our orange squares, just goes vertically upwards like that. And that connects it to this 5 clue, which doesn't work. So it doesn't do that. That means the 5 must impinge upon the orange squares. But we know it can't impinge on more than one orange square, because then if it does, we simply cannot fit the orange squares in without breaking the logic in the rest of the puzzle. So this 5 has to snip a cell out of the orange, but only one cell. And now I think once we remove that one's ability to be orange, I think we've only got 25 cells left. 5, 8, 18, 20, 25. 8, 8 and 9 add to 25. That's forced. So these are all exactly equal to 9, and they connect. That forces the 8 to take this square. We should have just enough squares to make... Oh, I thought I'd connected the purple 8s then, but I haven't. Look, the purple 8s don't connect with the red 8s. I'm going to remove all of the orangeness now because it's a bit confusing, at least for me. That's going to grow green legs. There we go. Now this 5 is now forced. All of those squares can be filled in. Let's make them yellow. That doesn't seem to be near another yellow. This square, therefore, is... This 5 has to not come to this cell. I can use purple without touching another purple, so it's got to take that square. That's gorgeous because it's forcing the 4 to come out. So that goes in, and the 4 is finished. Oh, I was about to do Sudoku on this 4. I can't do Sudoku in this puzzle. It's not a Sudoku. So this... All we know is that this is not purple. What I want to draw is a sort of a wall there, just to keep reminding me of that, and a wall here. Now, let's think about this square then. If this is a 4, it's not connecting there, is it? So if it's a 4, it's got to go there, then there, and then there. It would have to be a sort of tetromino in that direction. If it's a 5... If it's a 5, it's very tricky as well, actually, because I've got to not hit this 5. These can't connect because that's a 6 region. So if it's a 5, it would have to take those squares, and that breaks. That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. If this is a 5, the only 5 cells you could fit in without touching this immediately would be these. But then I've got to fit in a different 5 region here without taking this square. So you can see, hopefully you can see, I'm going to end up connecting them like that. 2 p pentominos are going to connect. So in fact, that has to be a 4, I think. It has to take those squares. This 5 is now forced. It can only be in those squares exactly, because we can never take this square. And we're just left with hopefully tidying up the last pieces of this. So if that's a 3, you've broken it, because it would take those squares and there's no way to fill this domino. It can't be a 2 domino, it would connect to another 2 domino. It can't be 2 1 cells because they would connect to each other. So this is a 2, which means that's not part of a 2. Okay, and that's got to then, you can see you can fill this with a 3 then. If you try and fill it with 1s, it won't work. And if you try and fill it with a 2 in any of those positions, it will connect to another 2. So that's a 3. We can award that purple status, I think, without breaking anything. And now we've got to fill these squares. I've got a horrible feeling this is not unique. So either this 2 goes this way. If it goes this way, that will be a 1, that will be a 2, that will be a 1, and that will be a 2, and that would work. So why doesn't it work the other way? If that's a 1, it would go 2, 1, 2, and there's no... That's beautiful. Right, look at that. If that's a 1, you have to go 2 there, 1, 2, and now this domino is absolutely broken. There's no way of filling it. You can't put a 2 into this square, so that has to be a 1, and now this square's got no value. That's absolutely ridiculous. So that's a 2, and it's red. That's got to be a 1. That's a 2. That's a 1. That's a 2. The checking won't work because it checks for Sudoku, not for Chaos Fillomino. But that is, I think, how to solve that Chaos Fillomino. And what a beautiful, beautiful puzzle that is. Mark Sweep, Take a Bow. I loved that. I'd love to do more pencil puzzles on the channel, actually. So do let us know if you enjoy these, at least as a change every now and again. I really hope you do, because logic like that, it's so cool. It's so cool that just with these, I mean, it's hardly any given information, is it? But it's really these funny clues outside the grid. You can create these inequality chains within the grid that actually allow it to be filled uniquely. I loved that. Look forward to the comments, as I say, and we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic and a stream of the Obra Dinn.